how do I feel about using flexi leashes for training fearful dogs? And then when I asked, context, she said for teaching leash pressure and exposure to walks. Okay, for teaching leash pressure, I don't love the flexi for teaching leash pressure. And the reason I don't love it is because we actually have less nuance and control and sort of tactile two-way feel and feedback through a flexi leash. So couple things to clarify there. What I'm talking about is, let's say I want to apply pressure. I'm going to apply pressure to the dog, and the flexi is currently unlocked. Well, the first thing I have to do is lock that flexi. And when you do that, if the dog has some momentum, it's really hard to do that and not have like a very sudden change, right? Like it can be a jolting situation for the dog. Whereas if I'm holding a leash, I can kind of move and gradually sort of apply pressure, absorbing some of the dog's momentum and have better control over the onset of the leash pressure, which especially for a fearful dog, I don't want any leash pressure to come on suddenly. Especially when I'm trying to teach leash pressure, right? Like, I mean, it might happen, right? Like if a dog's on a leash, it's going to happen sooner or later. But I think if we're trying to teach leash pressure, I want to teach it, especially with a fearful dog, let's be as nuanced as we can be. And then the other piece of that is, like I said, tactile feel. When I teach leash pressure, I use my fingertips on the leash a lot. The way I hold the leash, if you watch videos of me, it's kind of hard. I don't have a leash up here right now. But the way I hold it, like this hand would be like a thumb lock, and this hand, I would have the leash kind of going through this thumb. And if this hand is the leash, I kind of do like this on the leash. So I've got a secure grip over here so that this hand doesn't have to grip hard. And I'm not going like pressure, release, pressure, release. I'm actually going pressure, release, pressure, release. And I'm using my thumb and fingers to create that pressure. And part of the reason I do that is, like we can be a lot more dexterous with our fingers. We can do like tiny bits of pressure and release. It's a little bit harder to do that with our arms. Like you gotta have really good arm control, I guess. But the other thing is nerve endings, right? Like we just have a lot more nerve endings in our fingertips. So when I'm trying to also feel like minor changes from the dog, like I apply pressure and I can feel the dog flexing their muscles against me. I can actually feel that through the leash, and I can feel through the leash even before they've moved, where I could where they'd actually take the pressure off the line. Sometimes I can feel just that slight change in the pressure that tells me that they went from tensing their muscles against me to starting to soften their muscles a little bit. And I feel that, and boom, I release the pressure. I tell the dog, like, yes, I love that. I love that you just went from resisting me to not resisting me so much anymore. And I don't know that I would have that same sensitivity and feeling if I'm holding on a plastic flexi leash handle, if that makes sense. So for teaching leash pressure, no questions asked, I prefer, for me, a 6-foot leash is ideal. That's what I like to teach leash pressure with. For just getting the dog used to walks, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, no problem there. No issue whatsoever. You could do a long line. You could do the flexi line. If you just want to make sure the dog doesn't feel too restricted and restrained, and you're just trying to give the dog, like, you want to take it out to a field and let it sniff and let it just sort of be a dog a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's what flexi leashes are good for. So like even for me, there are times where if I had a dog that wasn't yet like off leash trained, like I might walk the dog to a field on a 6-foot leash, so I have more control and dexterity and all that stuff, and then get to like a field, and I might have a flexi leash in my back pocket, slap that flexi leash on the dog, and then give the dog some free time where they can kind of go back and forth. And I don't have to worry about a long line getting tangled under their feet and all those kinds of things, especially if some fearful dogs don't like the long line under their feet. Okay. So, so that's how I feel about flexi leashes. There are other training things they're really good for. I know some trainers that use them for recall training. I know trainers that use them for training the retrieve, like in this retrieve work. I know trainers that keep them on while they're playing with dogs. If the dog's not off leash trained yet and they're playing like tug of war, and they'll use a flexi leash, they'll like clip it to their belt loop so the dog can kind of come forward away, and they're not worried about the dog getting tangled up, those kinds of things. Or if it's like muddy ground or whatever, or snowy outside, you don't want your long line in all the muck and the mush. So yeah, there are okay uses for flexis. So my answer is no to the leash pressure, yes to the exposure for walks. That's at least for me. But different people teach leash pressure differently. You know, if you think it's working for you for leash pressure and you think it's helping and you think that you're getting, if you've tried doing it on a regular leash and then you tried it on the flexi and for whatever reason you just feel like this dog is responding better to the flexi, then go with what you're seeing. Because I'm not there. I don't, my boots aren't on the ground. So you know, trust your own instinct and judgment and just make your decisions on sort of what you're seeing objectively right in front of you. That's all. I guess that's what I'll say about that.